Good morning, Mama Bears and professional eye rollers. Actually, it might be evening by now. Let me ask you something. What in the world happened to men? Because I don't remember it being like this. I remember men who handled things, fixed things, didn't fold like a lawn chair under pressure. Now, now we got grown men out here needing emotional support to send an email. Ridiculous. And don't get me wrong, I'm not asking for perfection. I'm not looking for a lumberjack, a bodybuilder, or somebody out there wrestling bears in the backyard. I just want a man who doesn't act like assembling IKEA furniture is a traumatic life event. Or for that matter, a man that shops at IKEA. Not really interested in one of those either. If you need a support group in a recovery period after assembling a coffee table, we've already got problems. As far as I'm concerned, you should be building my custom one. And can we talk about something real quick? The man bun. Yep, and the murse. Now listen, I don't care what anybody says. When a grown man has more hair products than I do, and as you can see, I don't have that many, and a purse with better organization than my kitchen cabinets, we are not moving forward as a society. We are spiraling. And I'm not saying you can't carry your things, but if your bag has compartments, a color scheme, and emotional significance to you, I don't need you protecting me. That's terrifying. I need you recommending a skincare routine, maybe. Now, there used to be like a baseline. Men took pride in providing, protecting, showing up. They didn't run from responsibility, they walked towards it. Remember 9/11, the firemen running up the steps? And no, they weren't perfect, but they had backbone. The men I grew up around, let me tell you, I grew up seeing because maybe that's the difference. My papa worked on the L&M Railroad, not from a recliner, not behind a screen. He got up before the sun, and sometimes he came home after it went down and whistled all the way to work, hands in his pockets, walked there and back. My grandfather, he was a butcher. He worked with his hands, long hours, no complaints. And my Uncle Johnny was something else. This man was a decorated World War II soldier. Then he became a professional wrestler. And at one point in his life, he literally did wrestle live black bears in the backyard. Not metaphorically, not he struggled a little bit. I mean actual full grown black bears. And then later in life, he owned a bar briefly, where I learned to play pool, as a matter of fact. And after a full and absolutely fascinating life, he became a preacher in a small town, and he wrote a column for the local newspaper. Larger than life man. The kind of man that would be very hard for anyone to live up to back then. And but the ones we had today, huh, they don't even come close. They don't stand a chance. My Uncle Johnny was just larger than life. I adored him. I worshiped the ground he walked on. I can't imagine the disgust he would look at these men with. Now, compare that to what we're dealing with today. Men who are overwhelmed by emails, basic responsibility, just consistently. And I'm not saying everybody has to wrestle a bear, but you should at least be able to handle life, my goodness. At least without needing a support group or a nap halfway through it. I've never seen the like. I really haven't. I mean, that's the difference. That's what I grew up seeing. And I honestly, I don't know what happened. Where are these people? And in case you're wondering why I didn't mention my dad, I did mention, my grandpa, my papa, my uncle. My dad was a man's man. He explored caves. He played basketball, played baseball, and he was even recruited at one time, I believe it was the Minnesota Twins Farm League, back in the late 60s, I think it was. He married my mom. They had me in 1967. What more did he need? And then he went to work for GE in Louisville, Kentucky. Um, and then right after my third birthday, just less than a couple months after, he was playing in a tournament basketball game and he had a heart attack. I don't know from what. Nobody ever did an autopsy, but he was pronounced dead on arrival at the local hospital. He was only 24 years old. But even at that young age, he knew what being a man meant. He understood responsibility. Now, that doesn't mean he was responsible all the time. He was still damn near a kid. There was times he preferred to play rather than go to work, if you want to put it that way. But he understood commitment. He understood showing up. And that mattered. That still matters. Now, we've got a whole generation being told, don't be too strong. Don't be too assertive. Don't take charge. And what did that create? Confusion, weakness, avoidance. And then people wonder why everything feels unstable. Because there's no real men out there. There's nothing wrong with being a man or being a woman. I mean, here's what gets interesting. I actually wrote a book called How to Train Your Husband, an Owner's Manual. And yep, it's funny, if I do say so myself. But the truth behind it, you can't train what isn't there anymore. You can refine, you can guide, you might be able to improve it a little, but you cannot build a man from scratch. That foundation has to already exist. I mean, it's like building a cake without flour. It's not going to happen. And by the way, if you are curious about the book, the link will be in the channel description. But this isn't about selling the book. This is about reality. If a man avoids responsibility, lacks discipline, refuses to grow, that's not a project. That's a warning sign, ladies. Come on. Too many women are out here trying to raise a grown-ass man instead of walking away and finding one who's already pre-assembled and built right. Seriously. And let me say this, because I don't want this to get twisted. The men I grew up around, they weren't just tough. They weren't just strong. They weren't walking around like some cold, emotionless machine full of testosterone, giant balls of testosterone and false bravado. They knew how to be loving. They knew how to be nurturing, but they also knew how to be a damn man. There is some testosterone involved. There's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to apologize for. They just understood something that seems to be getting lost now. As men, they had additional roles to fill. My papa worked hard on that railroad. Long days, hard work. His hands were calloused. But he always had the sweetest smile, and he'd walk all over town whistling like he didn't have a care in the world. But if you needed help, that man was there. He took pride in it, in getting up in the morning, going to work, providing for his family. And he'd sit out on that front porch of his when the day was done, feeding squirrels right out of those same rough, calloused hands. That's what strength looks like. Balanced. Not the pendulum swinging way over to one side or to the other. We went from wrestling bears to arguing about oat milk and soy milk and I don't even know what else. We're not asking for perfection. We're asking for strength, accountability, consistency. That's it. I'm worried about my granddaughters. Meanwhile, Grammie Tammy's going to be over here not training a man. Absolutely not training a man. I am not going to be reaching up to one, running up a ladder, trying to get to him to come back down to my level. I'm going to find one that's already pre-made, pre-built the way he was supposed to, the good old-fashioned way. And if you don't like that or that offends you, then you might be part of the problem. And that's just how I feel about it. I'm curious as to what my audience has to say about this subject. Leave me a comment and tell me what you think happened. I really don't know what happened, but they are missing. I'm not going crazy with this. I want to know. So make sure, put something in the comments and let me know. And don't forget, subscribe and hit the little bell so that you'll know the next time I put a video out. And we'll talk to you soon. You have a great day. Bye-bye.